You're skeptical of the state. You're getting over the myth of authority.
But the state is still formidable. Or is it?
You've got a front row seat in the transition to a free society.
Let's dive headfirst into
The White Pill Box with your host, Mark Maresca.
Greetings all. Thank you so much for joining today. Today, my very special guest, and I'm glad to welcome him to The White Pill Box, is Patrick Smith. Patrick, live long and prosper.
My daughter made me promise to do the live long and prosper. We've been watching Star Trek a lot lately, and we just got to we just did Voyage Home. She absolutely loves Spock. Anyway, thank you for inviting me on your show. It's a pleasure to be here. I always like chatting with you.
Not at all. It's fun to have one more on board. Folks, Patrick is a longtime anarchist and host of Anarchast. I'm proud to have followed him for many years. Patrick is one of the true thinkers in this space, and I believe he has made some genuine contributions to its scholarly thought. Now, many of you are also familiar with Larken Rose. Well, Larken is putting on an event this coming July 18th, 2026 in Sedona, Arizona called Approaching Humanity. Patrick will be one of the featured speakers as well as co-host at this event. I will also be speaking there, but I assure you I am very much looking forward to what Patrick will have to say. I'll include links to the event, and we'll talk a bit about it. But first, Patrick, to start, I'm going to steal the question you've often asked of your guests. How did you become an anarchist?
I mean, you asked me to give you a bio for the show, but what you just said about me is so complimentary. Like, I'm glad I didn't tell you a bio. Like, that was, you honor me, sir. Thank you very much. I am embarrassed now. My face is glowing red. So no, those were very kind words. How did I become an anarchist? Boy, howdy. I can make this a 30-minute story if you'd like, or I can give you the short version. It's your show. Where do you want to go with it? I can give you like the highlights, or I can really go deep and we can make it a discussion.
Give us the highlights first.
You got it. All right. So young entrepreneur. I was in my 20s. I had set a goal to own a Corvette, which is my dream car. By the time I was 28 years old, I achieved that goal at 28. And I was just loving life and just loving capitalism, even though I didn't even really know what that meant at the time. I just loved competing in the free market, inventing things, solving problems for people in a way that makes them happy and me wealthy. Man, that is just, to this day, it's like one of the most exhilarating things about existence. It's just, you mean we can all benefit when we work hard and solve each other's problems? It's amazing. So I finally hit this achievement. First major Patrick life goal, checkbox checked. And for the first time I have a nice car and I'm driving it around, and I love this car so much. But I immediately start getting harassed by the police multiple times a month when I'm specifically not doing anything wrong. And the only thing that changed was the car I was driving. And it's not a wives' tale that happens. You're driving a flashy car, the cops are going to want to pull you over. And that's just how it is. And I was raised Christian conservative, police respecting, law and order respecting. The cops are our heroes and our protectors, and we need to thank them for their service, much like the military. And so it was just like everything I had been taught about police was immediately clashing with my real lived experience of dealing with them. They were assholes. They were petty. They harassed me for my achievement, like my goal in life that I had finally, yay, I made it. I did it. I got my car, and now I'm literally being punted to the point where there was a 3-month period where I got pulled over twice each month. So I got pulled over 6 times in a 3-month period. And I did everything, man. I tried sucking up to the cops just to make them leave me alone, which works more than it should. If you're just deferent and you lick the boot, they do write you less tickets, which is a problem. It's a data point on my journey, let's just say, and the egg cracking. Then I tried fighting it in court. there was a period of time where I had like 6 open court cases where I was pleading not guilty on all of them, compiling evidence, you know, testifying in court, jury trials over stupid stop signs and speeding tickets and nonsense. And I realized that I was winning most of those. Like, I think 9 out of 10 of the ones that I actually pushed back and fought, I won and got dismissed. But I just shot away so much of my lifespan just fighting through that process that it wasn't even a little bit worth it. It was far more worth it for me to give them $150, $200 and then go back and make some money in the free market. That's wrong. That's evil too. Like, if I'm winning 9 out of 10 cases, the system is doing the injustice, not me. That means that 1 out of 10 cases, even by their rules, they're right about, and the other times they're the criminal. So, what else did I try? I mean, I went hard on it. Anyway, you asked for the overview. So, it was a collision of worldview I was trained with versus reality. And it got to the point, I was driving back from something in Texas. It was like a 8-hour drive. I got on the highway after getting gas. There was a cop behind me. I saw him get on the highway, followed me on the highway, and he followed me behind me for half an hour, 30 minutes. I'm watching. I set the cruise control, obviously, you know, so that there could be no question as to speeding. Minding my P's and Q's. 30 minutes later, after him following me, waiting for me to do something wrong, he pulls me over anyway, and he just makes up bullshit. I was driving in the left lane. I changed lanes without a blinker, and he thought I might be drunk. And I'm like, okay, all right, you guys are just fucking criminals. Like, you guys are the bad guys. And so that really changed the entire course of my life. Like, the trajectory of what I was going to do in my entire life changed in that moment. I didn't even realize it, but it was merely me realizing, okay, the entire world thinks these guys have valid, just authority to the point where they're heroes. I need to put my eyes and hands on the source of that authority. I need to find out where these guys get the right to both get praised as heroes and the ability to fuck with me almost every day of my life. These two things, it has to be justified. Otherwise it's a serious problem. So I went looking for the source of their authority. Very long story short, found that it literally doesn't exist. It's, the perfect words to describe it, I wouldn't find until years later when I had met Larken in person and heard him say it. The superstition of their just authority. There is no better way to describe what sustains the government and their authority and their enforcers' authority. It's a mass superstition, a social contagion, a persistent, chronic social contagion, and so then I freaked myself out. I'm like, okay, wait. So am I like the only one that knows about this? Like, what are the chances? So it's like a existential tip for anybody. If you are the only one that thinks something, it's much more likely that you're wrong than you just happen to be the only one that's right about something, right? So you have to sort of take a moment, have a moment of epistemic humility, and just slow way down and recheck all of your premises end to end. And so, you know, that was like a 9-month, maybe a 6-month to 1 year process. It was right around the time we were having my first, my son with my wife. And she was pregnant, and we were waddling around the neighborhood one time trying to get some exercise in. And I was like, you know, wife, I really kind of think, I remember the words I said. It was like, you know, I've been listening to some of these anarchists and how the government doesn't have just authority, and I can't find it when I go looking for it, and I can't come up with any counter argument. And so it's sort of like I'm being, and I said, like, I'm, by the force of reason, I'm being put into this position of agreeing with them. But it's just really weird to say I'm an anarchist. Like, and I was talking to my wife, like, check me here, like, help me here. Am I losing my mind? And so, yeah, that was the process. I kind of talked through it with my wife many times over walks. And eventually I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm an anarchist.
So this is why I know you have always started your interviews with that question because you get an interesting answer every single time. If I were to guess before I asked you what your answer would be, because I know you as a philosophical person, I would have guessed that it might have been you were reading philosophy books and you stumbled on philosophers in this space and it resonated with you. And nope, this was raw, hard-ass experience with statism that made you so freaking mad that you had to do something about it. And what you did was think it through, essentially. When you questioned its authority, you were applying reason. That's just awesome to me. Did you see it as doing that, or were you sort of just responding to what was happening in your life?
I'm an engineer first. That's probably my prime attribute. I love bungeeing into complex problems, pulling the disparate pieces together that are needed to solve the current problem, solving it, building something intricate, and then moving on to the next thing. And so when I started diving into philosophy, I started with the founding fathers of the country, of the United States, and trying to learn what they knew or what they thought that they used to create this government that is supposedly derived from, the consent of the governed. And my intention at the time was not to just become a complete philosophy nerd, but it was to do that again. Okay, I've got a complex situation, thousands of years of philosophers writing and debating and thinking about this stuff. My intention is to treat it like any engineering problem that I do day to day. I'm going to bungee in. I'm going to grab the important bits that are going to justify the authority of the government. I'm going to put that puzzle piece together, and I'm going to have my explanation for why the cops do what they do, and why they're able to, and why everybody thinks it's not only normal, but a good thing, and why they're heroes for doing it. I really thought I was going to go in there, bungee in, make the puzzle piece, plug it into this equation that was just, destroying my mental health at the time. Not really, but it was, it was bothering me. And I thought the worldview was going to, click back into place, and I was going to be able to, continue with my life. That didn't happen at all. The opposite happened. It's like you start going down, you start lowering the bucket into a well to get some water out, but you keep lowering the bucket because you haven't hit water yet. And I'm just lowering and lowering. And as you go down through the layers of philosophy and you go farther and farther back in time. Well, number one, like I think engineers make the best philosophers because these ideas are like objects, and they interrelate and they interact and they have dependencies and hierarchies. I found that I had a love for learning philosophy, and most of the philosophy I disagreed with, but I think that's everybody. But I still enjoyed learning about it, and so I kept lowering my bucket until I hit rock bottom, and there's no water, turns out.
and isn't that probably one of the fairly common traits in our space? I guess it's that we tend to be that nerdy or engineering oriented. We want to see how the puzzle pieces fit. And that, well, at least for me, because I'm exactly like that, that's what leads to the frustration of then when you try to message it out, you're not landing. It ain't working. And it's because, right, the majority of people, that's not their particular interest. First of all, the subject isn't even necessarily their interest. And then thinking is hard and people have other things to do. And so we hit our head against that brick wall. And I think that does explain, don't you, the frustration that arises.
Yeah. It was part of, man, I can go long on philosophy, but one of the things I learned along the way was that we always project ourselves onto everyone around us. And that's almost never true. That almost never results in an accurate representation of the people around us. So we as anarchists often come to anarchy in a way that is very incompatible with everyone around us. First of all, we are damaged usually. Most anarchists early on, the early adopters of the ideas, are going to be the ones that question the status quo. Who's going to do that first? The damaged ones, the people that are hurt by the state and have a reason to go looking. Now, I was damaged compared to other people I know. Larken was, more than a year. I forgot how long it was in federal prison. I got harassed by cops. So I'm not sitting here like, oh, I'm a victim. I got some speeding tickets. Like, no, I wasn't put in federal prison for a year. But that's how the early adopters are going to be the damaged ones. And that element of damage doesn't exist for most people. And that's just a fact. Like, most people don't recognize wounds that they have acquired from the state. They're invisible thanks to the indoctrination. And so when we speak out and we say, the state is the largest aggressor that you'll ever meet. The state is by far the largest threat to your cybersecurity and privacy on Earth. Like, all this stuff just sort of like, it just slides off. It slides around the outside of their bubble because it doesn't really match up with their life experience. And it's very hard to land things. And then when you follow up that with logical exegesis on the just authority of the state, I mean, that's not most people, man. Most people want to play some video games, make some money at their day job, and play with their kids. They don't care about this stuff. So yeah, and that's why Larken, when I met Larken, and there's a video of me going to the conference on my old Disenthralled channel. I recorded it as like a vlog because that was the way to do things back then in those days of YouTube. I vlogged my local group of voluntarists from Dallas Fort Worth driving to Arizona together, road tripping to a little Larken event. And he's got some good insights on how to talk to people and how to get through to people. And in your alley, how to see the white pill of the current situation. I had you on Anarchast a while ago, and I tried to have you have like an intervention for me to save me from being blackpilled. And man, I really tried, but I gotta be honest. It's very difficult for me to maintain the white pill a lot of the time. But yeah, it's good.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, we'll continue working on that one. But the other thing that fascinates me too about this intellectual space is how psychology fits into it. And typically, I don't think most philosophers factor in psychology of human beings into the equation. For that matter, emergent systems and things like that. And so once again, it's like a lot of puzzle pieces that really do fit together if you're interested in looking at all that together. And you brought up Larken, and that was going to be one of the topics I wanted to bring up, because part of what I want to do today, of course, boost the event that he's hosting next month. So I thought I'd ask if you can identify several of the influences that Larken had on you personally in terms of your growth or your path through this movement, anything that stands out that he particularly influenced you about.
Yes. So I was an anarchist for a couple years before I knew of Larken's existence. And it was even after I had met him and having gone down to the event and hung out that I didn't read his book until later. The Most Dangerous Superstition. The biggest effect that he has had on me is being able to see most of the people around me not as evil, violent statists, but as normal people that are just holding a fog in between their ears around the topic of the state and just authority. And most people around me are normal, generally decent, generally good people. And that's important because it's like the let me put the words together. This is a good question that I want to give it its due. The transition that you go through back, like when I was talking about going on a walk with my wife and kind of freaking myself out about, holy shit, am I an anarchist? Am I crazy? Am I losing my mind? Like, because that's what you're taught about anarchists, is that they're nut jobs. Once you own the label, that's a change to who you are in and of yourself. And it necessarily changes how you interact with the entire existence outside of yourself. It's a big deal to realize that you alone are responsible for yourself, and that no one has the right dictate the terms of your existence, as long as you're peaceful, right? Okay, so there's that emotional breaking point. At least it was for me. Maybe this is only myself, and that's totally fine. I'm just giving you my experience. But there was an emotional moment there where you break past that point, and then once you're there, you're different from everyone around you. And I tell this, another part of the story of my becoming the anarchist. I won't go into the whole thing, but I was on an airplane flying for business, and I was reading "It's Dangerous to Be Right When the Government is Wrong" by Judge Andrew Napolitano. And that was making the story too complicated to make sense. I'm trying to compress like years of my life down into something. Okay, let me start over. Okay, so I'm reading No Treason, Lysander Spooner's book, and I had a moment. This was another plane flight I was on. I had a moment on the plane. We're in 30,000 feet in the air. I'm just reading quietly to myself with headphones on. Lysander Spooner's book is sort of relentless. It's a relentless read. It's like the Constitution has no authority in this way. Bam. The Constitution has no authority in this way. Bam. Oh, those other people think it has authority in this way. Well, that's wrong too. Bam. And it just he beats you over the head from every possible angle that you could use to justify the authority of the Constitution. He destroys it. And I remember just getting to this point where holy shit. The Constitution has no just authority. And then I just my back went straight in the airplane seat, and I looked around, and I'm like, none of these people have any idea. And so you feel very other from the world. And to answer your question, Larken helped me unother the world. It let me, now that I had come to a place of anarchy, and I was this weirdo, it helped me to realize that everyone around me is mostly the same. They're missing a couple Lego pieces to complete the set that would have them in the same place I am. Sorry for long rambling answers.
No. That's great. That's great. That's and he had that influence on me to a lesser extent, probably not as dramatic, certainly, but yes, several of his videos actually talk about this, how we need empathy. We need to have empathy for the victims of this mass cult. And that's the only way to describe it. And it is hardly even metaphorical. It's true that people are brought up in essentially a statism cult, but it's not their fault. And it takes a while sometimes to internalize that, because when we do talk to people physically, it just bounces right off. It's very frustrating, and we're looking at them in the eye, and we want them to see it. Why can't you see this? And we would have the same trouble probably if we were trying to bring someone out of an actual religious cult. And so, yes, it takes a lot to really internalize that they are victims. They are victims. They are victims. It's not their fault. And that also means they're probably not going to come out of the cult based on anything we say. Probably. Some may be influenced. But we have to have the attitude that, no, this is the best I could do, is to say what I'm going to say and then step away. Sort of a stoic perspective on it. If I'm going to say it, yes, I'm putting it out there. And you and Shepard actually talk a lot about the stoic perspective, and that's helped me too. Also, actually, to basically take a breather on that and see it realistically.
Yes, part of my journey through philosophy, the thing that stuck, obviously, aside from anarchy, the thing that really stuck with me was the Stoics. Now, the Stoics are hopelessly statist. They are wrong in a lot of ways as to, how they wrap virtue in with the collectivist notions of their society that they live in. But they also have a whole lot of really useful life advice. And I hit the Stoics about a year before my daughter was diagnosed with leukemia. And so having the Stoics ready to go, fresh on my mind when I hit that really hard part of my life was super powerful. It was super helpful. I won't say I was able to sort of mentally skate through it. It was still difficult. But looking back on it, thanks to the Stoics, thanks to the teachings of the Stoics. And for those that don't know, Stoicism is not we're going to be emotionless robots and we're going to train ourselves to not feel. It's kind of the opposite of that. It's kind of, it involves a lot of forethought, a lot of pre-planning, a lot of thinking ahead, a lot of being ready for things. It involves refining your expectations on the world so that when the bad things come, you're ready for them because you kind of expected them. Like, I'm sure everybody hearing this has expected something bad to happen, had the bad thing happen, and because they expected it and were ready for it, were able to sail through it easier than they would have had they been blindsided. There is an immense mental power behind being able to refine your expectations on the world, on the people around you, on the relationships that you choose to be in, to the point where you get what you expect. And sometimes that means you expect the good things and you get the good things. And sometimes that means you expect the bad things and you get the bad things. But because you expected them, you were ready. And so you handle them better. This is like a 10,000 foot view of Stoicism, but that was the power of it for me, especially during that really hard time. Life includes suffering. And if you plan for it to include suffering, when the suffering happens, you'll be more ready for it. And it won't destroy you mentally or physically as easily.
Right, right. And the specific lesson pertaining to the outreach or messaging that we do is to set those expectations. So if you understand that 1% of the people you ever communicate with, even the people you never see on the other side of that screen, maybe 1% it'll resonate a little bit with, and maybe 1% of those will become anarchists. You know, not that those are necessarily accurate figures, but if you have a more grounded expectation, well, it could help you not be quite as frustrated as if you came in like I certainly did, and I think others who are first red-pilled wake up and they say, well, this should be easy. All I got to do is explain it. 2 + 2 is 4 after all. And that, of course, it turns out to be not a realistic explanation, and that leads to the frustration.
Exactly. If you expect most people to either not get it or ignore you or think you're weird or crazy, then when it happens, you'd be like, yeah, okay. On to the next. That's fine.
For me, the big influence that Larken Rose had was, now at the time that I first probably encountered him was probably 2019, 2018, somewhere right in there. And I had already been an anarchist since 77, 76, something like that. So that's
way
a long
before
haul.
me, before I was even born.
And at that time, up to that time, I should say, I was looking at the whole thing as pretty much every libertarian, ANCAP, whatever name you want to use for that time, did, which was the state is the problem. The state is the problem. The state is the problem. We had perhaps an intuition or a very, almost an unconscious sort of understanding that, yeah, it is the people that believe that the state is legitimate. But it, at least to my knowledge, never went really much past that. It really was a very state-focused perspective. And thereby, the failure, or at least the less than stellar success of the movement, even up to that point, was frustrating. And when I encountered Larken's work, The Most Dangerous Superstition, that sort of was the key that unlocked it for me. Because for me, I've got that nerdy, you call it an engineering brain, I'm sure I'm similar, where things really need to line up in a cause and effect way. And so essentially what I saw out of that insight was that the cause of the state is the belief in authority, the root cause, the fundamental root cause, I should say, because there's any number of tangential causes, taxes, things like that. I'm not talking about that. The fundamental root cause of the state being this myth, this ubiquitous myth of political authority. To me, that was just like it was a train hitting me because it was cause and effect. At that moment, I was able to see that's why we failed for 40 years, whatever it is. The strategy focuses on the effect and not the cause. And it was at that point where it started my mind thinking along the lines of, why is few in the movement, even talking about that? Larken is, and I believe Michael Humer wrote a book on it. And that's about it. You really don't hear it focused on. And yet, if we're supposed to be these nerdy types that would truly find value in identifying the cause of something so bad, why are they not talking about it like a whole lot, or at least a whole lot more? And that really puzzled me. And to this day, to a certain extent, it does. Although I'm losing a little respect for the libertarian thinkers, not yourself, but a lot of them who claim to be thinkers, because if they can't introduce cause and effect into the equation, then I wonder, well, then why are they focused on an effect? We were supposed to learn that lesson from Bastiat and Hazlitt. Don't just look at the surface, look underneath. So I'd love your thoughts on that.
Let me get something out of my head that came up while you were talking that I think
Sure.
is a useful lesson to learn first, and then we can pivot to that if you don't mind. Let me just decide the direction of your show for you.
It's perfectly fine.
Forgive me.
No worries.
You cannot learn something new without you possessing a modicum of curiosity. Like, curiosity is the empty box that you're able to fill with new knowledge. And once you understand that, you can understand that that's how it works for everybody around you as well. And so if someone is not curious to hear about what you have to say about the world or the government or the superstition of its just authority, they have no capacity to learn what you're trying to say. And so it's sort of like the cold opens where you just approach, like if you were to just stand out on the street corner and approach people out of nowhere and be like, hey, let me tell you about anarchy. That would be completely ineffective. Like, no one gives a shit about what you have to say about anarchy. You have to find people that are curious. The curious people are the damaged people. The curious people are the engineering minded people that are just, curious about complicated systems like philosophy. I think out of everyone, the most easily convertible through argumentation and logic will be the engineers, because they're the ones interested in thinking about those types of things, and pretty much everyone else is not. But anyway, so curiosity. And then that, of course, then dictates again, inversely, how the best method to change the world is to be a person that people want to learn from. So that means being successful. That means being good and virtuous. That means, being conscientious, a hard worker, somebody that's there for them when you need them. Just by being a good person that people look up to, those people will come to you and want to learn from you. What makes this guy tick? Why is he such a cool guy? Like, what does he believe? I want to know and understand, because even subconsciously, I want to be like that guy. And so those are the opportunities when they come to you and they're like, what did you call yourself that one time? Like, a year ago, I remember you saying you were like an anarcho-capitalist. Yeah. Then you approach it nonchalantly. Yeah. It just means that, I realize that the government has no just authority and I own myself and I lead myself. And like, what? And then they start asking you questions because they're coming to you with a curiosity box and they want you to fill it because they already respect you. They already care about what you think and believe. That's how you change the world. That's how you wake people up and change minds. But it's like you can't find love by waking up in the morning and deciding, okay, today, priority number one, objective, I'm going to find someone to fall in love with. That is not how love works. Like, you have to, it's a tangential effect of other decisions and actions that you take. I'm going to make myself a good person. I'm going to put myself in places where I might meet cool people or good people. Like, you set about making yourself a good person and setting yourself up for good opportunities, and love happens as an effect. Same thing for changing hearts and minds of the people around you. It's not a goal. And I'm giving you guys straight up, like, I have been trying to learn activism for 15 years. I've tried every type of activism that there is, and we can talk about that if you want. All the categories of activism, I've tried them all. Running for political office, street activism, charity, everything. It's almost all really useless. If you really want to change the world, you just make yourself a good, successful person that people look up to, and then people will come to you looking to find out what makes you tick. That and have children and raise them well. Those are the two ways that actually work.
I absolutely love you're always making sure you're communicating the importance of peaceful parenting. That is such an important part of what you talk about. I know that. And it's not talked about enough, but it coupled so powerfully with these ideas as well, because it arises directly out of that. I mean, it's the non-aggression principle as applied to, how about that? Children. Gee, Who would have thought of that? They're people too. And so thank you for bringing that up, because I had not thought to bring that up today, but I think this should always be mentioned. Peaceful parenting is very, very important. Please say a few things on that. You're an articulate spokesman of that.
Sure, happy to. So I started an effort several years ago called the Peaceful Parenting University, where I made a series of videos going through my sort of foundational parenting philosophy as is compatible with our ideas of consent and property rights and self-ownership. And I kind of realized in retrospect that was a poor name. And instead of Peaceful Parenting, I think I should have named it the Principled Parenting University. Because peace is only part of it. Not hurting people is part of it. That's the negative side. The positive side has to be, okay, what principles do I want to parent around? Consent, property rights, self-ownership, etc. So I've actually been thinking about starting that project back up under the new name and kind of going down that road again, because like I said, these are the two ways. Like if we're going to change the world, Patrick has to make himself successful and a good person that people want to be like. Whew, that's a project. And two, I have to parent well and help other people parent well. So the basic summary is, people say that communism only works in the home, in the family, right? Where it's a small group of people. That's fucking wrong. That is just, communism doesn't work anywhere at any scale. It is the worst possible way to live your life. Not only that, if you run your house like a commune or like a state, then what you're doing is you're programming your children to expect that as an adult. When we enter reality, I say this all the time, we accept the reality with which we are presented when we enter it. So we are born into this universe, and how we're raised the first 15, 16, 18 years of our lives with our parents shape our expectations for the world outside of our family. And if we run it according to the principles of authority and the state, this is my castle, I'm the king, you're under my roof, you do what I say when I say it, I will spank you when you disobey my authority. You are literally programming the ethics of the state and the government into the kids. You are telling the kid subconsciously, without using your words, much more strongly by doing it to them. You are programming their brain to expect there to be an authority figure with the just authority to hurt them when they disobey into their brains. And so when they hit adulthood and they're out on their own and now they're the adult, they still naturally expect and accept the just authority of the government acting in the same way against them and upon them and with them. And the absence of the state would be the weird, scary thing to them, because their whole life they've had that force that supposedly protects them while controlling everything about their life, right? So the idea with principled parenting that I would love for people to learn more about, and I'm happy to talk to anyone one-on-one, just hit me up on our Discord server and I'll have a parenting discussion. It's like an open door policy for anybody that wants to learn about this stuff. You have to create the world you want to see in your home with your family and your children. So if you want the world to one day respect consent, to respect property rights, and to treat everyone like they are self-owners, sovereign self-owners, then you have to create that exact same philosophy in your own home with your children, so that they grow up having liberty be their norm in their brain. Their brain grows to fit the shape of liberty. And so when they hit adulthood and they encounter these people that are trying to control them, they immediately and automatically recognize that external entity as evil, as part of the problem, as an aggressor, as the enemy. And that's how you change the world. You change people's default expectations. So like my kids are not, I'm not trying to like breed philosophers that are like quoting Kant and, Stoics. My kids are normal kids. They're growing to fit the shape of liberty, so that when they meet the world later, the world will be the problem, not the normal expectation. So that hopefully in their own lives and in their own little ways, they'll be able to change the world for the better for their kids and their grandkids, etc. That is the most powerful form of activism. That is the most effective form of activism. And it's also just the best way to raise your children. Like the relationship I have with my children that I've raised this way, I've had the benefit of doing it both ways. Unfortunately, my first child years ago, I raised very normal, very traditionally authoritarian, normal parenting, normal American parenting. And so I've seen both ways, and it is night and day. The relationship I have with my younger children is incomparable. Incomparable? I don't know how the, whatever. There is no comparison between the two methods of raising your kids. And the last thing I'll say, thanks for allowing me to rant so long, is that I am not promoting permissive parenting. That's one of the reasons I want to get away from the peaceful parenting label, because a lot of people say, oh, you don't spank your kids, you don't discipline them, you let them do whatever they want, you're raising irresponsible hellions. That is not at all what we're about here, because that's not the real world either. Like you are responsible for the effects of your actions in the real world. So that needs to be part of the environment you create in your home as well.
Wow. Beautiful. Well done. You got that set my mind into a tangent, a bit of a tangent. It has to do with the adaptability of human beings. Clearly, humans are adaptable. They adapt to cultural environments that are so across the spectrum, it is unbelievable. From prison camps to communist countries, North Korea to free societies, the colonial era, and everything in between, and things we haven't even imagined probably or don't know of in our history. Humans are adaptable. And at first, when I thought that years ago, my brain said, oh, well, that probably means that there's no one right way for humans to be. We are simply instead brought up in whatever culture we happen to be brought up in. And that's sort of the status quo for that particular society. I've changed that radically, where I think that a condition of freedom is what is when I say freedom, I mean self-ownership, what we would consider our core principles, consent and so on. That is natural to our species. When I see a child that is brought up in a reasonably stable, loving family, that child, we're talking 2, 3 years old, seems so free, and they're so curious. Contrasting the more or less handicap free spirit of a child in their 2s or 3s before they've been overly indoctrinated to the average adult who grows up, who then is more bitter about the world largely because of the type of indoctrination we're referring to. I'm just trying to contrast here the idea that humans are so adaptable with what appears to me to be the clear observation that children all seem to start off as free beings.
I don't know. I would have to research. I'm not going to project an uninformed opinion. I think when you don't know something, you should say, I don't know. So this is me saying I don't know. I would really have to think about it and research it more. I'll give you what I suspect, but don't take this as authoritative at all, because I don't know. I don't believe blank slateism is true. And I also don't think genetic determinism is true either. I think the best data that I've seen so far shows that it's like 30-70 genetic environment. So that tells me that, and this makes sense too. It's like what I said earlier. Not only we have some basic instincts and we have some normal behaviors. We're the same species, so it would be weird if that wasn't the case. But also what I said earlier about accepting the reality with which we're presented. And, from the moment we enter existence, we begin conforming ourselves to the environment we're in so as to be successful in it. And that is a social conformance. I'm making up words, I guess. And it's also a physical conformance. Like if we're born in Japan, we're very unlikely to be obese. So that's a physical conformance because that's how they're usually over there. That's the food that they eat and all that stuff. But also they have a very strong social collectivist bent there, right? Like you're supposed to subjugate your individuality to, follow the greater good, the greater good. It's a movie reference, if any. What is that movie? Oh, no. Do you know the movie?
No, my brother would know it, though. He knows everything about every quote.
It's hilarious. Oh man,
We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out,
figure-
and I'll insert it in.
it's a comedy, but there's this cult. It's the greater good cult or whatever, and that's how they talk. One person talks about something, the greater good, and then everyone present goes, "The greater good." I see that everywhere in the world, basically. But anyway, so what this goes to your point, adaptable. Yes, absolutely. We grow into the container that we're put in at birth. And so that's why peaceful parenting is such a powerful form of activism, because you create a container that respects consent and property, and so you grow people consent and property shaped in it. And yeah, I don't know if I answered your question there.
That's fine. It was very much idle speculation on my own part as well. One of the things that I wanted to have you talk about is your participation in the activist side of things over time, and how that's shifted. And it goes in, like many of us, this is not unique to you. There are times when you are more active and sometimes you are less active. Could you sort of give us your perspective on that and share? Because a lot of us go through the same sort of dynamic.
Yeah. So it is a silly thing that some of us humans do, where we shift our focus and our primary goal from our job, our career, our family and children over to, I'm going to change the world. The amount of, I mean, you don't really think about it this way at the time, but it requires quite a bit of ego to even think that you can move the needle of the world. And so one of the first things you slam into when you decide to become an activist, and I literally decided to try this, is what I'm trying to say. Like, at a certain point in my journey, I realized how screwed up the world was, and how the superstition of just authority in the state is a fundamental core problem to that. I said, okay, well, I'm going to approach this like all the other engineering problems that I tackle, and I'm going to examine the options. I'm going to find which method of activism works best, and that's the one I'll focus on. And so that required trying all of them. I ran for not governor of Texas. I got involved in the libertarian party's politics, and I tried to use the podium that everybody's already looking at of politics to spread the word. Well, let me tell you what a failure that was. I tried street activism, where we get a bunch of people and we go out to a march or to a protest. That really does nothing as well. It kind of does worse than nothing. It lets people feel like they're doing something while actually accomplishing nothing. The government loves when you go out and protest, because you're expending all of your energy doing something that literally does nothing to them. They don't give a single shit if you protest. They want you to protest. It's good for them. Get your energy out, children. Go run on the playground and get tired, so that when we go home, you'll take a shower and go to bed. Like, that is protesting. So I did that. The best thing that comes out of protesting is like, you meet good people and you form bonds with people and you have fun. So if you're doing it just to have fun as entertainment, sure. But as a form of activism, it's negative. It's an actively negative way to change the world. What else? I tried charity. I still believe in charity, but not for the purposes of activism. I tried it as a method of activism for a while, where you find people in need, you help them. And that, in a way, opens a connection between people to then talk about what you believe. Religious people do this frequently. That's where I got the idea from. Churches will do all sorts of charity. And what that does is it brings in people close to them that they can help, which is what I'm not saying they're nefarious about it. They actually do want to help people. But as part of the help process, they use it as an opening to talk about their ideas and, their belief in God or whatever. And that works somewhat. For politics, not so much. I would say that is effective, but not so much. Like, it wasn't super effective for me. It wasn't ineffective. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's good to help people. It's part of being that good person that I talked about trying to become myself. Helping other people, I think, is a good way to be a better person and to be someone that not only you want to be, but other people will look up to. That's why we started Voluntary Virtue, the 501c3, to do charity work with. That still exists. It's backburnered now. We're kind of waiting for opportunities to pop up to use it, but that is certainly still there. What else? Philosophy, debating people and spreading our ideas verbally as a form of activism. That encompasses what we're doing right now. This is like we're on YouTube, we're podcasting, we're broadcasting, or we're out on the street, standing there with a change my mind sign, having conversations with people. This is a form of activism, and this can be effective. Not super effective. This is like the nudge. My experience with what we're doing here, philosophy, podcasting, rhetoric, is that people that have their curiosity box, something else has done something to them for some reason that it's left them with an empty curiosity box, and they're going like I was, like where is this just authority from? I got to figure this out. So they go looking, and then one of the main places people are looking is on YouTube. They go looking for explanations, and so when we're here talking about it, it's able to catch the people on the edges that are already sort of ready to understand what's going on. That's what this type of activism is great for. And it also, that's externally. Internally, it's great activism because it's internal activism in that it strengthens our own ideas. When we debate each other, when we disagree with each other internally about our principles, that strengthens our internal structure, which is good for all of us as well. So internal debate, philosophy, external evangelism, let's say. And then parenting. Parenting is how you actually, that is where the engine is finally locked in gear. The rubber is in full contact with the road. It's just slow, and it's a humble thing, right? Like, I'm not going to change the entire world in my lifetime by raising my children better. But you know what? I wasn't going to change the entire world in my lifetime anyway. We all have to understand that, we're like a little 5 horsepower engine trying to push, the globe. And so do we have no effect? No, a 5 horsepower engine could have an effect, on the globe, but it's going to be minimal. And so the strategy you need to understand is to, again, have a stoic, accurate prediction of what the future is going to bring. And the future, I have my little 5 horsepower engine. I'm going to keep it running. It's going to be a constant force in the direction on the globe that I want it to be. It's going to have the most effect on the people near me and in my personal relationships. That's where I'll see traction. Outside of that is sort of outside of my scope. You have to let that go. You're not going to change the world, and that's totally fine. Just keep your little 5 horsepower engine running, keep it oiled, keep it running smooth, and keep it on. But don't make it your entire life's purpose, because you will burn out immediately. Because your little 5 horsepower engine, if you rev that thing up to, the red line to try and actually move the world in a noticeable way, you're just going to blow your engine up. Like that's, and I'm speaking about yourself. You're going to burn yourself out because you're not going to be, you're not going to be able to move the overall needle. But you're going to be able to move the needle of the people around you. And you're going to create the needle when you have children and raise them properly. So that's how you actually change the world. That's like so the overview. Yeah. And it's interesting how you put some of that, because it's a little bit like a new analogy I'm working on. We love working on our analogies. And this one has to do with... we will find the perfect analogy, and everyone will hear it and go, holy shit, I'm nervous.
Now I see it.
Yes.
My analogies tend to be geared more toward our team to kind of explain things that I think I've stumbled on and maybe have a tough time communicating sometimes. But in this analogy, it's like imagine you had a magic radar for people, and when you scan a person, the scanner tells you this is a person who would be curious about our ideas. Therefore, they're a good candidate. And then but it would also tell you, which would apply to almost everyone else you scan, nope, this person you'll never get anywhere here, so don't spend your time on them. Focus on the ones that the scan comes through for. And now, the analogy only works under some certain almost axiomatic assumptions. One of them is the myth of political authority is indeed the root of the outward effect, the state. If that's not the case, the analogy flops. It's also predicated on some other assumptions there too, but very axiomatic, like praxeology. Assuming all that's true, then what I find interesting about the analogy is we're hoping that we would have a radar for the type of person who would be interested in these ideas, and that would then be the only scope we would have to worry about. But the interesting thing is that, and again, this is an assumption, for the world to move in the direction of freedom, you would have to have some minimal level of skepticism about the state. You would have to have some level. Now, we don't know what that level is. We can't quantify it, but I've imagined it as a bucket of skepticism. And when that bucket tips over or tips off, you're in the area now where the state can't function anymore. How that happens, of course, is another discussion, but we would assume that at some point of skepticism, this is what happens. Therefore, you would want to see that skepticism get to that point. The insight would be that we expect that the radar is all we would ever have to use as a tool. Therefore, if we convince the person who the radar says works on, we convince them, good, we've done it. We've added a full cup of skepticism to that bucket. Where I think we may not have considered is the fact that along the spectrum of skepticism from zero full-on statist to 100% full-on ANCAP, that's a spectrum where a person may have some skepticism and not even know it. Every step along that way counts. Every step counts, even if you're not conscious of it. So our X-Man power is being able to, when we're successful, get an ANCAP, get a full cup of skepticism. Our, what would you call it, an X-Man weakness would be we can't scale that. It's impossible to scale that because most people would never qualify on that radar. What I think has happened is because the internet has decentralized the communication flow of the world and basically is in the process of eroding the effectiveness of propaganda by giving people so much content that as a percentage, there's just less propaganda hitting their mind anymore because they are choosing their cat videos, their auto repair videos, their reruns of Leave It to Beaver videos. There's only so many hours in the day. Propaganda is necessarily a smaller part of what hits their brain. Not saying that the state doesn't engage in propaganda at the same level, but it's not hitting their brain as effective. If propaganda then, and another assumption, is the oxygen supply of the belief in authority, you have to have propaganda. If propaganda is being undermined or eroded just because of the nature of the internet seems to be serving the flip side of that equation. We're good at creating full-on 100% skeptics, but not at scale. The internet, not on purpose, but just by its nature, seems to be able to increase skepticism moderately, but at the scale of a planet. Everything counts in adding to the bucket of skepticism. So my hypothesis, I guess, would be that that bucket of skepticism gets increased simply by virtue, or increased dramatically, simply by virtue of the internet undermining propaganda. There, I've said my little speech there.
Yeah, my initial reaction was no, I don't buy it. I don't think so. But, then I always challenge my own beliefs right away. And so I say, okay, well, do I have any counterexamples? And yeah, I do. This past week on Twitter, there was like 5 separate normal statist citizens of the world that were upset about the recent Trump's recent ban on the Anthropic company releasing their Claude Mythos AI to the world. And so, by fiat, by stroke of the pen, somehow magically, the government has effectively banned sufficiently advanced AI models from being released. And what I've made just like a practice, a habit, is that every time the government, daily, obviously, does something that aggresses or controls or screws up on, I just put bugs in people's ears. I'm like, oh, wow, they're terrible at everything. Oh, wow, the government has no authority whatsoever to just control brand new technology that people are inventing. They just said you can't do it. Who cares? Like, they don't have the right to do that. And so then you get the immediate response from people. You just get hit with their upbringing. Listen, when you're debating people, when you're waking people up, 90% of what you're doing is interacting with their childhoods. That's another little philosophical point to keep in mind. So if you're getting anger from somebody, it's because you're challenging how they were raised. And that's another stoic point of understanding and empathy that you can have for them. They're not mad at you because they don't like you. They're mad because you're challenging how they were introduced to the world. Let me not diverge too much on this, but just briefly. Trying to summarize this in my head so that this doesn't become a 30-minute debacle. Here's an example. A parent raises a kid saying, you have to share. In fact, you're going to get in trouble if you don't share your toys with the other kids. So the jar that they're grown into when they enter the world shapes them into somebody that thinks sharing is a requirement, justified by the authority of whatever authority figure is over them, right? Then they become an adult, and the same worldview goes into social welfare systems. You tax the rich and you share their wealth with the poor, and that's good. You're sharing. When you confront that adult and you say, no, that's nonsense. It's a violation of your consent. It's a violation of your property rights. Not only is that nonsense, but that's evil. They're the bad guys. They're aggressing on you. They're stealing from you for some kind of collectivist notion of benevolence. What you're doing when you have that interaction with the person, you're not, like, what most people think is that they're debating with the other adult brain, and you're having a battle of ideas on political philosophy of wealth redistribution. Bullshit. What you're doing is attacking how their parents raised them. You're telling them that your mother and father either lied to you or taught you wrong. Like, your parents were wrong. Your childhood was wrong. All those times when you were forced to share, that was a form of evil. Your parents are bad for doing that. That's what you're doing. 90% of the time when we're talking to grown-ass adults about this stuff, we are attacking their upbringing. So you have to be empathetic to that if you want to get anywhere. You have to not take it personally. They're not mad at you. Like, their inner child is upset because if they're going to acknowledge what you're saying as the truth, their inner child has to also acknowledge that their parents were the bad guys then. And that's really hard for people to do. Anyway, so this is a big digression. I don't want to go too far into it, but what were we talking about?
Well, I had touched on how skepticism has grades. Basically, it's a spectrum. So really,
yes, yeah. And so, counterexample. Thank you. Okay. Good Lord, I was really off on something there. I'm
enjoying it.
I hope that was helpful. Yeah, but I put bugs in people's ears because every day, as a matter of course, there's opportunities where the government is hurting people in small little ways, or making a fool of itself, or giving you an example of it controlling or coercing, and all you have to do is say, hey, that's not right, that's not bad, and try not to digress all over the place, but there's so many parallels to parenting and children in all of this. If I'm curious, you're sitting in a restaurant and you're at your table, you have your family with you, you're having dinner, and the table next to you has another family, mother, father, kid, and the kid does something kid-like. Maybe they keep dropping their fork on the floor, or just something annoying or stupid or whatever. And you see that parent, like, just hit their breaking point and yell at the kid, or maybe grab the kid and swat him on the butt. What do you do? Question to you. How do you handle that situation?
Well, because of legal concerns, I would not step in because I don't know what the laws are going to do that are going to perhaps redound upon me in some negative way. So sadly, I can't protect that kid in that moment. If it were absent that, that's an assault. And it would, assuming that it's described the way you have described it, which it's a kid, so I think that's good enough.
Yeah.
It's an assault, and at least in a free society, we'll say, it's justified to step in and protect someone who is not able to defend themselves.
Absolutely agree. So, but in today, right now, tonight, you go to a restaurant and this happens. Do you do anything, or you just kind of be quiet? I'm not trying to set you up to be criticized here. I'm generally, this is the thought experiment, and I want people listening to also be answering this question.
Right. I'm doing what I would like to do, which is put myself right in there and feel those emotions. And
yes.
I probably, knowing me, I would probably do no more than give them a really, really nasty stare. Like, I don't approve it. That's my public way of saying I don't approve it, but that's the extent to which I can act. I think that's probably what I would do.
Okay. Let me, what I'm about to suggest is not going to be for everyone. And I will not say that everyone should do what I'm about to say, because it requires maybe a certain type of personality to do what I do, because this does happen. It's happened to all of us. We've all been in restaurants. This is a perfect example. This specific scenario, though, is just a case that I'm trying to make a larger point later. So don't let me forget to make the larger point out of this. But you have to think about your goal. Stoicism. What's your goal in the conflict? What's your goal in the situation? What is the outcome you want to happen? And what are the actions you can take to most achieve your goal in that circumstance, right? My goal is to not try and change the parent's mind. My goal is to not try and confront the parent. That's impossible. No parent wants a stranger to inject themselves into their lives to tell them on the spot how to parent better. Like, there is 0% chance that you're going to have any effect on how that parent works by addressing them directly, or by even giving them a bad look. That would probably just piss them off more, and might just make them more angry, and maybe they take it out on the kid later when they leave the restaurant or something. Like, you have to be careful in these situations, because you're right, we don't have the ability to defend the kids' safety like we should in the state of society. What I think about, though, is what interaction can I have, like a pool ball, that will glance off the other people in and around the situation to send them in a slightly different direction as they go forward in their lives. Now, there's a couple things. So I guess what I'm saying is, an effective way to deal with the world, to kind of keep us synced up to our previous conversation, is as you go through life and you see people getting hurt or aggressed on by the state. That's the analogy here. Parent aggressing kid, state aggressing adults, right? You wait for these moments, and when they happen, you be ready to put the bug in the ear, to say the words that will ping their cue ball in a slightly different direction going forward in their life. So in the restaurant, I think about, because I had this happen once, and I was like, and I was totally blindsided. Like, my anarchist brain is like, okay, I just witnessed an assault on a child. Like, should I shoot the guy? You without forethought, without having thought about this beforehand, you have no plan. You just kind of blank out and freeze often, right? And so after that, I went back and I thought about this. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to affect two people, and none of them are I want to affect the child and how they see the situation, and I want to affect the parent and how they see the situation. And so what I want the kid to understand out of the situation is that what's happening to them is wrong. It's not normal. I don't want them to accept the reality that they're presented with in that moment and have everyone in the room around them ignore it, teaching the kid that their authority figure assaulting them is acceptable. That is almost as evil as doing it to the kid, in my opinion, to have the people sitting next to the kid shrug it off and just kind of look away while it happens. I imagine the kid just sitting there feeling, totally helpless. Okay, so literally everyone around me thinks I need to get assaulted right now. Holy shit. Like that, it chokes me up. I can't let that stand. Excuse me. I really care about how kids are raised. It gets me quickly. So forgive me. What I do is a very awkward thing for most people. I would stand up. I would point at the parent and the child, and I would say, "Stop hurting that child." loudly so that everyone in the room looks at that parent doing that to the kid. Now, even in Texas, where everybody thinks that it's okay to spank your kid, if somebody loudly accuses you of, hurting the child like that, that is a very socially awkward thing for the aggressing parent to deal with in that moment. It's gonna put all the eyes in the room on them. It's gonna make them take a breath, check themselves. They might even leave the restaurant or whatever. But the main thing is the kid sees somebody. They see a light on in the room sticking up for them, saying, oh, wait a minute, maybe that wasn't right. Just a little bug in their ear is what I'm trying to get across. When these opportunities in life happen, you put the little bug in the ear. You do the little thing that sends their cue ball off in a slightly different direction. Same thing for adults. So we're on Twitter. Trump has done some stupid thing with this new AI model. You just say a little thing about how the government has no authority to block that stuff. I get six status now engaging with me saying, yeah, it does have the just authority. And so now I get to make the point, well, do you have the authority to stop some new technology I make tomorrow? No. Okay, well, who does have that authority? No individual does. Well, then where did the government get it? Oh, the government just has it. Well, but wait, where do they get it from? And so you just, a little bug. You don't full on engage. They're not ready for that. They're not curious. You just do a little bit, a little nudge here, a little nudge there. Your 5 horsepower motor, just puttering along, doing the best you can. That's how I try and be. Sorry for the intense kid thing. That got a little more intense than I wanted, but I think that's a really good example.
Yeah, it is a great example. And as usual, if you consider that content, I learned from your content because that gave me a perspective on how I might, or one option for dealing with situations just like that, as well, of course, as in the case of adults when we're dealing with spreading these ideas. So thank you for that. That was informative for me, as usual.
Yes, I stand up and I loudly say, stop hurting that child. And then I look at the kid and I say, are you okay? Are you all right? It's just a brief moment of empathy. You're checking on somebody. You're calling out something is wrong. And, it makes the whole situation uncomfortable for everybody. But, the kid's getting hit. So it's not supposed to be comfortable.
Right.
But I'm kind of a disagreeable person, and so I don't think that'll work for everybody. I'm okay in causing contentiousness sometimes.
Maybe.
I want the kid to know that he's not alone, and I don't want the kid to grow up thinking that everyone agrees with that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
Anyway,
No, that's beautiful. I'm glad we touched on the topic of children and principal parenting, as you call it, because that is important and it doesn't get enough attention, I don't think, in our space. And you would think it oughta. Okay. I wanted to wrap up by talking about the event that we'll both be at, and I get finally a chance to meet you in person. It's called Larken's event is called Approaching Humanity, and it will be a full day at a venue in Sedona, Arizona. It'll be structured along the lines of his upcoming book of the same name. And according to his website, it's targeted to both the already red-pilled, but very much tailored to the newcomers, the general public. He expects it to be both informative and entertaining. And I'll quote from his website. He says it'll focus on rediscovering what it means to be fully human in a world shaped by fear, division, and blind authority. So there's no spoilers in that. I just know that it'll be unique and fun. So I thought I'd toss it over to you and see if you have any comments about it.
Yeah. His format is something I've never even heard of any other event doing. So it's kind of cool and exciting. He started off by asking me to, instead of do an hour-long talk or a 2-hour seminar on some topic where, we go deep and, we examine the intricacies of something like that. He says, give me multiple short talks on different topics. And then he's going to get all the speakers involved to do the same. And then he's going to stitch them or weave them together into a cohesive narrative for the event, sort of start to finish. Wow, that sounds really cool. And man, the Zoomers are going to love having a different topic every 30 minutes. So, the attention span thing, it's a good idea. Yeah, so I'm excited. Now I get to speak. I think I'm speaking on 4 different topics currently that we have planned, and they're all things that I'm actively interested in. I'm going to be talking about epistemic humility and the actual wisdom in sort of doubting our presumptions and our own beliefs, and I'm going to be talking about how the existence of the state in our lives is inversely proportionate to how divided we are from our neighbors. I won't give the talk now. I'll just that's the topic. I just get so excited about this stuff. I want to talk about it now.
I hear you.
He has somebody giving a talk on why religious people should respect self-ownership and be anarchists. And he wants me to give the other fork of that. He wants me to give a short talk on why atheists or agnostics should respect self-ownership and be anarchists. So that's going to be really fun. I'm excited about that one because that's anti-subjectivism in a nutshell, basically. And then I'm going to be talking about why property is fundamental to freedom, to the point that it's almost the same thing. Consent and property are basically the same thing. They can be hyphenated. Consent, property. This is the fabric of freedom. You can't have one without the other, and you can't have freedom and liberty without consent property. So I'm going to be talking about that. It's going to be fun. I'm going to get to see all my friends and all the cool liberty people and flap my gums about things I'm passionate about. So I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I am too. Very, very, very much so. I think I have 3 topics that he assigned me.
What are your items that you're going to talk on?
Let's see. I have that jotted down in my handy dandy. So for one, I will be talking about propaganda and kind of like what we touched on a little bit before, how as important as it is to the state, it's unfortunately starting to erode a little bit, and the prospects of what that actually will mean. I'm going to talk about emergence. So, for example, the state as an emergent property of the idea of statism, or free societies as an emergent phenomenon of freedom, that kind of thing. And that's just a taste of what I'll be covering.
Okay. Was there a third, or are you keeping that one a secret?
That I'm keeping a secret because that's sort of a new thing for me, and I have to flesh out my thoughts on that. So.
Nice. All right. So I will definitely be attending your talks for sure. I have unformed opinions on some of that, so it'll be interesting to hear what you have to say.
Sure, no problem. I'm so looking forward to the whole thing. My wife and I will be there. It's going to be fun, and it'll be great to meet up with Larken again too. We've met him in person once, and him and Amanda, and it was a pleasure. And so it'll be great to, it's always great where there's so few of us. So when we have a chance to literally shake each other's hands and then talk face to face, there's nothing like that, and that I'm just jazzed about that.
Where do you live?
I live in Florida. I'm in Central West Florida. Yes. So,
right. So we're both like leaving a hot area and we're gonna go to Arizona in July. So we'll be fine.
Yeah, I know. I was a little worried because when he first was kind of floating the idea and talking about it, I thought it's great, but is this going to be one of those open air kind of, there's going to be booths and things like that? And I saw Sedona and Prescott, and I thought, this will be a problem. But then when he said it's an indoor venue, it's like, okay, book my tickets. So.
Yeah. It's a dry heat. Have you been to Phoenix in July?
Yes. So we are very much used to seeing the Tucson, Phoenix type of weather. I spent most of my adult life in California, and the heat there is more or less a dry heat. So I won't say used to it because we moved to Florida so we could not have the dry heat. So, but yes, I'm familiar with it.
Really? Man, I was just about to say, I so much prefer the dry heat of Arizona's 115 to the slightly humid heat of Dallas's 105. Yeah. Cool. Well, I look forward to seeing you and everyone that comes. This is going to be fun.
Yes. And I think that'll be a great place to wrap things up. Patrick, is there anything else you'd like to discuss or plug today as we get ready to close the show?
If you want to join an online community of people that enjoy talking about philosophy and liberty and hanging out and making friends and playing video games and all that stuff, you should join the Anarchast Discord server. You can find links to that at anarchast.com. And if you want to learn more about the philosophy I alluded to earlier, check out antisubjectivism.com. And if you want to find my old and a little bit campy at this point content on peaceful parenting, search YouTube for the Peaceful Parenting University and you'll find it. It needs a refresh, but there's still some good stuff in there.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I will absolutely do that. Those are great sources to enjoy. And that is a good place to wrap things up. So, folks, I hope you all enjoyed today's episode as much as I did. Patrick, thanks so much for spending the time with me today.
Always a pleasure, Mark.
And thanks to everyone out there as well for joining. Take care and see you next time.
Thanks so much to all subscribers and everyone who joined today. And remember, keep looking for those white pills.